Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining the Indian Apparel and Textile Conference 2021. Indian textile sector is one of the oldest industries in the Indian economy, dating back to several centuries. Ready-made garment and apparel industries proved exponential growth in the sector both in domestic and export markets. This is Sheetal Bhandari, founder and CEO of Business Charcha, and it gives me immense pleasure to host today's conference. A warm welcome to everyone present here. It's my honor to announce our today's speaker. We have with us Padma Shri Dr. A. Saktiwal, and he is also known as Indian Apparel Industry, the father of Indian Apparel Industry. Dr. A. Saktiwal is the chairman of Apparel Export Promotion Council, and he is serving the council for almost 4 decades. His diligence has played a vital role in the growth of council and gradually led to the improvement of exports at the national level. Tirupur Export Association, popularly known as TEA, was set up in the year 1990, and Dr. Saktiwal was the president of the association from inception to September 2016. He is also the managing committee member of Federation of Indian Exporters Organization for more than a decade. His involvement in AEBC, TEA and FIEO has played a vital role to help the growth of export sectors in India, especially in SME, and his service has been recognized in India and also internationally. Welcome, sir. We have with us Dr. Rupak Vasisht. He is the CEO and Director General of Apparel, Made-ups and Home Furnishing Sector Skill Council, Government of India. He has held numerous enriching leadership roles within human resource, legal and skilling domain, spread across diverse industries like automobiles, textiles, healthcare and education sector for the last 35 years. He has earlier worked with Apparel Export Promotion Council and also headed the human resource function along with serving the Chief Vigilance Officer. And he has also established the AEPC Education Wing. With his rich and diverse experience, Sir is contributing to make remarkable contribution and impact directly at the grassroots level by imparting quality training and skilling to thousands of Indians. We have with us Mr. Sanjeev Chawla. He is the Director of Development, Commissioner, MSME. Over 23 years of experience in MSME development, cluster development for MSMEs, worked in implementation of industrial development program, policy formulation for SMEs, and he has also helped in incubation of various small and micro enterprises and played a leading role in some pioneer initiatives such as developing the first comprehensive cluster development program in Ministry of MSME. Next, we have Ms. Sunaina Khanna with us, Director of Methods Apparel Consultancy Private Limited. Methods has been working in improving the operational efficiency of the apparel industry for over 35 years now. Been in the area of skill enhancement and trainees and trainers, seamlessly infrastructure implementation, sleek equipment adaptation or delivery effectiveness. They have implemented the system in over 200 factories. We have with us Krishna Sumant. He is the co-founder of Try3D, working on digital transformation solutions for the global apparel industry. Try3D is an IIT Madras and NASSCOM 10,000 initiative, and it was incubated in the startup working in the field of apparel, digitization and personalization. The goal is to simplify model photo shoots and facilitate. They have already implemented the program and they are Try3D in 5,000 plus companies. I would like to invite all our speakers here. Thank you so much for joining. As per today's topic, I would like to invite Dr. A. Saktiwal to initiate the conference.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The CEO of today, Ms. Sheetal Bhandari, my colleague and long-time friend, Mr. Dr. Rupak Vasisht, Ms. Sarita Duhan, Ms. Sunaina Khanna, and other participants of today's webinar. It's a great pleasure to participate today in this webinar because it's my favorite subject is apparel and apparel exports. This Business Chacha is a good initiative taken by your organization, and Mr. Rupak was talking about to me about your programs and the service you are giving to the, I can say, for the Indian economy. My subject is converting crisis into opportunity. Yes. We apparel exporters are, you can say that we are the pioneer for creating this opportunity during the crisis. You are aware that when this corona crisis started, we felt that it's going to be disaster for the whole the world. But we find that there is a way to come out of this. So these first thing that Government of India or Ministry of Textile realized that there is no medical textile for domestic purpose even, because we never concentrate on the medical textile. We never, it was not necessary for us. It is a very small quantity we are manufacturing and we are exporting it, or we are using for domestic purpose. But when you want a PPE kits for the doctors and frontline workers or whatever you ask for, including mask, India's I can say zero in the month of March. Our Honorable Minister of Textile, Ms. Smriti Irani, has taken the initiative, and she started talking to the apparel exporters and apparel industry people that we should develop this medical textile immediately. Then along with our Secretary Textile and Joint Secretaries, the APC, we started working. Then we find even that some specialty machine is not available, so we have to import it through air, and we have to find the fabric, we have to find the tape. Within I could say 10 days, we could arrange everything, and we are ready for the production. First, we have started manufacturing for our local, our domestic industry, for the doctors and nurses and the medical staff and frontline workers. Then I could say that within 45 days, we became self-sufficient, and we are ready to even to exports. Then I started telling to our government, to the Ministry of Textile and Commerce, now we fulfilled our domestic need, please allow us to export. The government was a little careful. He said, no, we have to see how it is going to be, then only we can allow. But we were pressuring the government, no, we have enough capacity, we have everything in our hand. Now, what are the requirement of the domestic industry? That time the HLL was buying for all the frontline workers and doctors. We fulfilled the orders, so we are ready for the exports. Then we approved the Commerce Ministry. Then first they have lifted the ban on export of mask. Now the mask is like a fashionable item now. Especially ladies, they use masks according to the handbag they carry, according to the dress they wear, according to the shoe they wear. So we started manufacturing masks, non-medical as well as medical. First they allowed the non-medical mask. Then we told the government we already have a sufficient for N95 and the 2-3-ply mask also. The medical mask is sufficiently we are producing. You can't believe that in Tirupur, the people have imported mask manufacturing machine for the N95 and 2-3-ply mask. And today the capacity of Tirupur itself, both put together 30 lakh pieces per day. Now all over India, we manufacture more than 1 crore pieces per day, the mask, and that's a N95 and 2-3-ply mask. Then after going through that thing, the government has allowed the export of masks for the medical textile also. Then we started requesting for PPE. Now, I'm proudly say that we are number 2 exporter of manufacturer of this PPE in India. Why I'm saying this? The crisis make us to work hard and put all our wholehearted effort, and we are becoming the number 2 in the world for manufacturing of medical textiles. When the buyers are started cancelling and started not taking the goods, and people were not known what is going to happen to the apparel exports. But we requested the buyers through APC that we will cooperate with you. Please don't cancel the orders. We will postpone your deliveries, and we will also try to give you a 10-20% discount. And our Honorable Minister also we requested. She wrote to all the buyers. We have a long relationship. She made an appeal through video that don't cancel the orders, but government also will cooperate with you, coordinate with you. So, and I can say that with all our efforts, the cancellation is only merely anything now, maybe 2-3% cancellation. Postpone of the orders, and we have. I can say that the loss is minimized. Then we realize that now there is a positive sentiment towards India and anti-sentiment towards China. So we told our exporters we should utilize it. So we started telling the government now there's a good opportunity for man-made fiber garments, which we are lacking so far. Because usually we are our export is 85% cotton garments, only 15% man-made fiber garments. The government also agreed, and we given the HS code. What are the HS code that the importing countries are doing, and competing countries are exports to this, Europe, USA, UK, and Canada, and other things. So the government identified 40 HS code of MMF garments and 10 HS code of technical textiles. It's a medical textile coding. Now government is going to come out with a scheme called the Protective Link Scheme, that is for PLI, incentive scheme, that's for the MMF garments. Now afterwards we thought that how to approach the buyers during this crisis, because we are not able to travel and they are not able to come. So we started participating in the virtual fairs in Magic in Las Vegas, in London, Pure London, and Tokyo Fair and all. Then we thought in APC we should have a virtual platform. So immediately we started working with our IT team and whole APC's officials, and with one Silpi Technology of Gujarat. Now we produced we have got a virtual platform which is a unique one of its kind. It is 24/7, 365 days. 3D views are there for the products, and it's a 360-degree exhibition center. You have a video chat, you have a mail chat, and also you can have a virtual B2 meeting. Now that virtual platform is inaugurated by His Highness Vice President of India, Mr. Venkaiah Naidu, and it's working very well. And again we thought that utilize this opportunity, what we should do. Then we started talking to all the ambassadors of and High Commissioner of India to various countries. Now already we had 5 VC with the ambassador, and through them we invited the buyers. So the buyers, we had a very good discussion on the video conferences, and the buyers started placing order. And regular buyer also, we started requesting them, please use the positive sentiment towards India. Please place the orders. So now the orders started coming. First 6 months, yes, we were minus, but I'm happy to announce September, October, November, our apparel export became plus. It's averagely about 7-8% more than the last year. We expect with the medical textiles and MMF garments coming in, and also this virtual platform, we may not be a minus this year. We may achieve the last year figure. We are trying to do that. So we have taken all the steps and all the projects which can help the Indian exporters to market their products, and also through our embassy started helping us, and virtual platform, and video conferences, and participating in the international fairs through virtual way. So everything is helping us, and I'm sure that we will not only back to the normal in the month of March 31st. Next year, we expect our export may grow by 20 to 25%. With this positive sentiment, I inform all the participants, India exporters like Phoenix, they have come up, raised to the level. They have shown to the world, yes, we are back and we are ready to manufacture and serve the needs. Thank you for inviting me, and I wish all the participants all success. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sir, I would like to know something. Is there a demand in textile and apparel sector shifting from China? Is it taking place? Actually,
Demand from China.
yeah.
See, China, there is a demand now. What happened that there is one particular place in Jingguang, I forgot the name. There the cotton is grown, but the cotton is grown the picked up, and cotton is used by child labor. So suddenly the USA has put a ban that the cotton comes from that particular area should not be used for exports. Not only that, they put this condition for the other countries also who are importing the yarn and fabric from China. So now there is a need for China, the fabric and yarn, because suddenly that is the maximum. I think that about 55% cotton is produced in this area of China. Now there is a demand from China for the fabric as well as for the yarn. It is there, not for the garments, but for yarn and fabric it is there. You're on mute.
Sorry. Yeah. And does India ready to handle the extra volumes that is coming in?
Yes, we have told the apparel exporters we should be ready. The government also realized that. That's why I talked about this PLI scheme. And what we are lacking in the PLI scheme are for the man-made fiber garment. We have enough fabric and enough fiber, but we don't have the proper world standard fabric. So that's why the PLI scheme is come with the green processing projects also. So even last week we had a Invest India seminar. There we have requested the investors to come in and invest, because we need the technology to produce a fabric to the international standard, especially for the sports wear and the launch wear and the performance wear and all those wares we need. And in APC we have already started a separate division for making this man-made fiber garments, and we have conducted 4 seminars with the Reliance and of course the Birlas, who are the maximum producers of yarn and fiber, and we requested them to manufacture fabric also. Now that 40 HS code, we started manufacturing the garments and started giving to the exporters. So these are the garments we need. Maybe initially we may have to import the fabric for to some 3-4 months, but by the time with all this scheme coming in, we'll be ready with because we have enough fiber and yarn. Only the fabric processing has to be done. So maybe another 5 to 6 months, we will have our own fabric to produce and also to export garments.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for this enriching session.
Thank you. Thank you. I wish you all the best for your seminar, and also I'll be leaving in another 10 minutes because I have another seminar, but I'll be there for 10 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I want to listen my person, Mr. Rupak, what he says.
Sure. Yeah, we would like to invite Dr. Rupak Vasist for the next session, and we would like to know what the skilling part in the apparel and apparel industry.
So, respected Dr. Shaktivel and all other honorable panelists, good morning, everybody. In fact, it's a pleasure to be here, and I was very, very keenly listening to Dr. Shaktivel's, address. And I mean, these are the, words of wisdom, actually, and we are very lucky to actually directly receive such words of wisdom from Dr. Shaktivel. Let me just, inform the House about these skilling initiatives which are now being taken by the Government of India in the apparel sector. Now, basically, there are three basic challenges which are there right now. One was that there was a skill gap which was already there in the apparel sector. So there was a shortage of skilled manpower to a tune of earlier about 40 lakh persons additionally were required. Now this was a challenge, and the government basically devised various schemes and various various ways to shorten this skill gap. Now, the second challenge was that during the pandemic, there was a great migration which took place. Lots and lakhs of skilled workers in apparel industry and other industries also migrated to their natives. And the third challenge which is there is that as there is likely to be a shift of the importers basically from China to various other countries, including India. So if additional work comes to us, then certainly we have to be prepared with the skilled manpower for additional volumes which are likely to come to the country. So we had the skill gap, we had migration, and now we have this challenge also that the additional volumes are likely to come to the country, and we are supposed to be ready to meet the challenge. Now, basically, to address shortage of skilled manpower, in fact, the Skill India movement was started by the Government of India, and various sector skill councils were set up. The government actually, this was the thought of the government, that let the entire skilling be handled by the industry themselves. Means they said that you set up the standards of your various job roles which are required in your industry. Start the protocols, lay down the protocols related to trainings, lay down the protocols related to assessments, and then lay down the protocols as how the trainings would take place, how the assessments would take place. Train the people, assess the people, and employ the people, end to end. This was basically left on the industry in the form of sector skill councils. Our council was founded in 2013, and again we had the privilege of that this particular council was founded by none other than Dr. Shaktivel himself. In fact, he was the founder chairman of Apparel, Made-ups and Home Furnishing Sector Skill Council. And under his leadership only, the Sector Skill Council for Apparel started. And since then, we have developed job roles, 45 job roles, the standards for 45 job roles, and protocols related to trainings, protocols related to assessments, and protocols related to anything under the skilling subject. We are very happy that, in fact, the government had started a very big flagship program of Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship called Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, PMKVY, we call it. And under the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, the skilling took place in a massive manner across all 40 sectors. And in fact, we are very happy to say that apparel sector was on the topmost level both in case of certifications, means we did, by the way, we did around 12 lakh certifications in the last 6 years. And this is the highest amongst all the sectors. And thereafter, in fact, even the job provider, apparel has been adjudged as the biggest job provider under this Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana. So these two things means highest certifications and highest number of jobs which were created by apparel sector skill council. So this is an achievement of apparel sector skill council. This is an achievement of the government of India, basically. And in fact, frankly, I'm again repeating this, that all the leadership, all the guidance, in fact, came from none other than Dr. Saktivel to start this particular initiative in the country. And so we are right now, a lot of migration took place recently. And so the government has actually tweaked its programs. And what the government is now doing is through the state skilling missions, wherever the migrants have reached, in whichever state the migrants have reached. So they are being, first of all, they are being zeroed in, they are being, checked that which sector do they belong to. And let's say in UP, 50% of the migrants, incidentally, were from apparel sector. So what the government of UP is now doing with the help of Apparel Sector Skill Council is that there's a program called, or there's a scheme called Recognition of Prior Learning Scheme, in which the government or the Sector Skill Council reaches various various factories in apparel sector, and what we do, we assess the workers who have not gained their expertise through. They have gained the expertise through conventional means. What we do is we go there, give them a 12 hours of orientation, and then assess them. Thereafter, we certify them under the NSQF, National Skills Qualification Framework, and they are basically certified by the Government of India, and that is free of cost. So what the Government of UP has now done is they have used this RPL scheme, and various other states. Bihar is doing this, Odisha is doing this, Gujarat is doing this. So wherever these migrants have reached, the respective state governments are basically certifying them, giving them a 12 hours of identifying their job, their sector, and certifying them with the RPL, Recognition of Prior Learning certification of the Government of India, so that even if they wish to stay there in their respective states, they get jobs there, or they can start their own business as well, their small business as well. Or even if they come back, then at least they are certified, so they get the job very, very easy. So this is a very big, change which has come in the skilling protocols of the Government of India. Now, the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana is, as I told you, this is a flagship scheme of the Government of India. In fact, this is the pet scheme of our Honorable Prime Minister also. This is Skill India movement. And so under this Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, now what basically is now being done is that this is now being spread in the various districts. District-wise spread is there. So with the help of the respective state governments, now the skilling will be done, and so that the skilling reaches all the corners of the country. And we as Apparel Sector Skill Council, we are quite geared up. We have till now topped the position of highest certification provider and highest job provider under this Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana. And in future also, we are really geared up of providing the skilled manpower, enough skilled manpower to the industry, so that on one hand, the industry gets the skilled manpower, on the other hand, the unemployment which is there in the country gets reduced. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Uh, I would like to invite Mr. Sanjeev Chawla for our next session. He is Director, Office of Development Commissioner, MSME. Sir, we would like to know about the MSME initiatives for the apparel and textile industry.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to interact with you. I'm equally excited to be part of this distinguished panel. Today's topic is the world ending dependence on China for apparel and textile trade is very interesting, very relevant. The question of ending dependence on China is pertinent to all sectors, particularly health and other strategic sectors as well. Textile and apparel, being labor intensive sector, are also very much important. Apart from so many other countries, India has very well taken various initiatives to build on indigenization, import substitution, export fronts. And today we have listened to Dr. Shaktivel that PLI, this production linked incentive scheme, is also being brought in for textile sectors so as to achieve economies of scale. As far as our Ministry of MSME is concerned, we deal with all sectors all across, and I will like to discuss various initiatives of the Ministry of MSME which are applicable to all sectors. So if we again talk of today's topic, I was talking to one toy unit 2 days back who is manufacturing plush, these soft toys, and he is very much worried how he will get fabric for his toys. He's not getting fabric for his toys because he was importing it from China, and now he's talking to Thailand. He's approaching one unit in Jalandhar so that such kind of fabric can be made. And I asked about what is the problem. He said finish is not there. What kind of finish is required for soft toys which he was manufacturing is not available from the fabric which is being produced in the country. So supply chain is being affected. Supply chain is being broken up, and this turbulence is happening across the sectors. I'll give you another example. At India Gate, Delhi, we see a lot of toy vendors. They are selling one small toy with bubble. It makes bubble when we blow it. But that soap solution is not available in India. The toy unit was importing it from China, and now he is struggling to find out by testing it that what kind of soap solution it is. So the topic today is quite relevant, that we are we want to reduce our dependencies on China for various raw materials and in APIs for pharmaceutical formulations, and similarly for so many sectors. I was talking to footwear sector in Bahadurgarh. So the people are having this kind of feeling that we are not getting the materials, and how we'll take benefit out of this situation, how the Indian industry will take benefit. Government is now coming up with so many programs. Production linked incentive schemes are being brought in for 13 sectors to take care of the economy of scale issues. Atmanirbhar Bharat program has been brought in, various schemes were launched. Emergency credit line scheme, fund of funds for non-conventional kind of business, loan for distressed accounts. So many schemes are there. But how we take benefit of this? The main issue is here now, technology and productivity. I'm told that in footwear manufacturing, Vietnam, they have started quite late in footwear manufacturing, but their productivity is almost 3 to 4 times than that of ours. In in fabrication of apparels also, there are productivity issues as compared to Bangladesh, Sri Lanka even. So government is coming up with various schemes that is there. Maybe we have a higher infrastructure cost, maybe higher cost of funds, maybe we get duty drawback issues, maybe. So there may be product, but the real thing is that we need to have proper technology, and the role of skill sector council is very much important here. That they can provide us the NOS and other details for training of the manpower, retraining of the manpower, and then we will have the issue of technology. So how to build the capacity? So Government of India, Ministry of MSME has brought in some schemes earlier also. When we have a scheme called MSC CDP, it's a cluster development program scheme, wherein the individual units, like in kind of apparel fabric processing industry, there are people who cannot invest in costly effluent treatment plants or costly machinery. So then they can come together and they put up some common facility centers in which our ministry provides financial support up to 70%. So projects up to 20 crore can be brought in. We are processing one such proposal from Palwal, where some vendors who are in finishing a business of fabric have come together to set up a unit which will have proper effluent treatment facility, which will have proper fabric processing facility. And I have suggested them to focus on technical textiles also, which is also a great need for the country. So similarly, we have other schemes. So one scheme which is called lean manufacturing has been availed by so many units. Okla Garment Textile Cluster in Delhi has also availed this lean manufacturing scheme, wherein the units come together, they hire the consultant and reduce the unproductive processes. Flab is reduced so that they become lean and they can become competitive in the market. So similarly, we have other schemes as well. So we can have a separate session on the schemes as well, which are being run by Ministry of MSME for the benefit of MSMEs across all the sectors. So if we say that how we will take benefit of this situation, I think we need to have a strategy. The biggest contribution has to come from entrepreneurs itself. The government is doing its bit. Now the interest rates are coming down. We have softening of interest rates. So these issues are also being addressed in a greater manner. And I think in the budget to come, we'll have more ease of doing business and more stimulus kind of thing for our textile and apparel sector. So at this moment, I like to say only this, and I like to listen to other speakers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. We have certain questions from our participants. I would like to take 2-3 questions from the participants. I am unmuting Akansha Sharma. So Akansha has certain questions regarding the skilling for the government schemes. Akansha? Akansha, you are unmute. Okay. Yeah. So Akansha was asking the question: what are the schemes for women entrepreneurs? From our panels, I would like to know. Yeah, sir. She has a questions on schemes for women entrepreneurs.
Well, basically for the women entrepreneurs, they can certainly, there are so many job roles. The best part with the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana or any other scheme which are being run by various other ministries, is that all these skilling programs come free of cost to the end user. So, so whether it's a higher level job roles like fashion designer or assistant fashion designer or merchandiser or other, or at the lower level, shop floor level, sewing machine operators, packers, checkers, or now the best part is that we have actually developed a job role called self-employed tailor. So by the name itself, it's self-employed tailor. So what basically we are propagating is that in the rural areas, especially women, they already have this basic stitching skills. So what we do is we leverage those skills and make them ready after this particular job role, make them ready to start their own small shop. And the best part is that you don't even require these days a separate shop. You can start it from your home. You have your the cell phone, and that's it. I think with the help of the cell phone, possibly so that's what we promote. So this is for the rural part. For the urban part, we have a boutique manager's job role. So after doing this, normally the urban youth they do this particular course, and they start their own boutiques. And we have hundreds and thousands of cases in both sides where the rural women, especially women, have actually started their own shops after doing this particular course of self-employed tailor. And from the urban side, the urban youth have again, mostly we have seen that the ladies come up for this particular job role, and they start their own boutiques. They do not only start they don't not only employ themselves under the self-employment kind of scenario, they employ hundreds of other persons in this particular scheme. So here there are no separate courses or separate schemes for women entrepreneurs separately, but as we say in apparel sector, it's a 50% proportion. 50% of the manpower consists of women, and if it is especially in South India, it's 80-20. Mostly 80% of the women actually opt for the apparel sector jobs.
Thank you, Sam. Yeah, I am unmuting Fahmida right now. She has certain queries. Ma'am.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Especially, I have a question from Mr. Chakshivar. We wish to know that what government is taking initiative to, for the pollution thing, the pollution which is causing from the polyester product, which we are majorly importing from China, which is going into the landfill and taking more than 200 years to biodegrade. And apart from that, the farming in cotton, which takes a hell lot of pesticide, which not only affect land or affect water bodies through rains and all that, as well as affect the human health. So basically, what we are doing in the field of sustainability. So sustainability, as much as I'm working on the sustainability, working bamboo clothing products, which is helping out not only reduce the pollution but also helping directly to the customer by protecting them from bacteria, or it is thermo controlled, it is thermophobe. So basically, if you talk about the sustainability, linen, bamboo or the hemp are the most sustainable fabric, and cotton is affecting in multiple ways. In terms of farming, it is hawking the water, it is a hell lot of water, which is less than 0.5% usable water is there. So I just wanted to know what government is taking initiative, products are promoted, or government schemes are promoting or helping those entrepreneurs to bring that business on a wider scale. Hope my question is clear. I'm sorry if things are not clear. Somebody can, anyone want to ask, can ask it again.
Yeah, from a panel of speakers, anyone would like to address the question?
I think Dr. Sanjeevan would be the right person to answer this, please.
See, regarding pollution, now all state government has taken it, and also entrepreneurs themselves, we have taken a lot of precautions. Now, in Tirupur, about 12 years back itself, we brought the technology of zero discharge. Now, all the factories, we have about 500 processing houses in and around Tirupur, and all 500 factories are having a zero discharge. As I said, the state government is also taking a lot of interest and they're doing everything possible. That is, they have a monitoring system. They can monitor. Suppose in Tirupur, they have a monitoring system at Chennai itself, the Pollution Control Board. They can monitor what are the water is discharged and how much water is consumed. Everything, they have the data. So we don't discharge at all any water now. The same zero discharge is copied by all the state governments, and they are vigorously doing it. Not only that, even from Australia, Bangladesh, New Zealand, the people come and visit our factories and they take in the technology from us. So now I can boldly say we don't pollute anything in Tirupur, as well as wherever the pollution control board is there in other states also. They also monitor it very well. And Government of India gives some kind of suppose it's a common effluent plant, they give 25% subsidy. In Tirupur, we have about 10 common effluent plants. There are 30-40 factories joined together. They started this. So Government of India is giving 25% finance on that. And now, as I said, the PLI scheme, there is a one project or one scheme only for a green processing technology. There is a 400 crores have been allotted, and the government is giving nearly 20-25% subsidy to put this technology. So the government is also very keen that we don't pollute anything further, and I can boldly say that those days are gone that we are polluting the river, we are polluting the area. Now we don't do that, and government is also very keen to see that it is done. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So this is something what we are talking post making the yarn and during the yarn processing and making the fabric. But at the time of farming itself, there could be a much more sustainable option in the industry, like what we can say bamboo, hemp, linen at the place of cotton, because in farming stage of farming itself, we are somewhere polluting by putting a lot of pesticides. So are we making any rule at the use of using pesticide during the farming process also?
Yeah, I'm not aware of the bamboo thing, but in cotton, of course, we don't use pesticide now, because even the customers who want to buy, they're well aware of this pesticide. So in our garments, when we are buy our spinning mill, when they buy the cotton, they see that no pesticide is used. But regarding bamboos, I'm not aware of it.
Okay.
See, now the whole world think about the sustainability. So the sustainability garments is the main thing now. Even especially for youngsters, they want to buy garments which has got a tag on sustainability. So we produce garments with a tag of sustainability. So it is the awareness come all over the world, not only in India, everywhere. So we are into it for producing the eco-friendly garments.
Thank you, sir. I would like to invite Ms. Sunaina ma'am now. She is the director of Methods Apparel Consultancy. And we would like to take the topic on tools to attain world-class manufacturing in apparel manufacturing. Ma'am, over to you.
So, our industry has been always facing this challenge, and a lot of the speakers also mentioned about our low efficiencies and how manufacturing excellence needs to be improved in our industry. We've been working as a consulting organization with the industry for over 40 years, and exclusively for the apparel industry, and we've been always working into areas of improving efficiencies and improving costs, reducing wastes, and that's our specialization. And that is why I chose this topic, because I think if India has to actually go on a global platform to compete the world and excel and be Atmanirbhar, not only just Atmanirbhar and showcase their competencies on a world forum, it needs to adopt world-class manufacturing practices. So I just put together a few slides for that. Now, in order to know first what is world-class manufacturing, that's the first thing that we need to know. So any organization, any practices that are followed in any manufacturing organization in order to consistently deliver exceptional performance. So not just the performance, it's exceptional performance, which are exceeding customers' expectations, is actually what is named as world-class manufacturing. And basically the world-class manufacturers are those companies who demonstrate industry best practices, where your competitors are willing to emulate you, so you create benchmarks for the industry. So that's what world-class manufacturer means. And the criteria for being a world-class manufacturer, there are two overriding criterias. You can judge yourself, or you can start this journey towards world-class manufacturing. Is the first one being is, how does the company compare with its best competition? So whichever is your best competition, how do you compete with that, and where do you stand at, and has the company increased its score since last year? So every single KPIs, you have to measure yourself whether you're improving, because it's a continuous journey of improvement, and there is no such stage as perfection. You continuously keep improving and keep shifting the goal, as you move along this journey. So, and ultimately, of course, you have to come to a stage where you are improving your profits year on year and ROI year on year. Now, how is this achieved? The first and foremost thing is that you have to first of all, you have to develop the awareness or the need to make the transition. Now, obviously, the first thing is to identifying the need for it. Why do we need to be world class? Because we are now competing to global standards. Now the whole world is open. The quota era is gone really, long ago, and we have to compete globally. And I think this COVID crisis has really, put this point forward that we need to be excelling into everything. And in order to do that, if we start this journey and be world class, because that will definitely, lead India into the world. So developing the ability to search for relevant tools. Now, of course, the first thing is awareness, and then we have to start developing the tools that will actually take us towards world-class manufacturing, and monitoring the progress. So when we do the implementation of these tools, we have to keep monitoring ourselves at every single step, so that everything is systematically utilized. Now, different levels of companies are there. There are 5 levels of companies which are generally can be taken as benchmark. The audience, whoever the manufacturers, can actually see for themselves what level they would be. So the first level is not meeting the financials commitment. Level 2 is meeting the financial commitments but not making profit. Level 3 is making profit but not very consistent. So sometimes it is there, sometimes it may not be there. So meeting the ends. And level 4 is increase the profit year on year. And level 5 is increase profit and ROI year on year. So that is what the world class is. So it's level 5 which we need to lead to, which we need to aim for. So the companies need to, so what it takes in order to become world class. Now, in order to become world class, the first thing is that you have to have all. Now, these are the 5 different aspects of this journey. The first is comparative analysis strategies. That means how efficiently, what are your cost efficiencies in terms of operation? What is your cost per minute? What's your lead time? How quickly can you deliver to your customers when you compare to your competitors? So speed to market is your lead time. Research and development supremacy. Now the technology is taking leaps and growing leaps and bounds. So how quickly you are adapting to the technology, how innovative is your approach, because that's what is going to make you world class. Zero defect quality is something which is very, very important. And are you doing not only working on efficiencies but zero defect as well? And environment, somebody said sustainability, that's also something really, really important to go world class. And real-time order management, that you are tracking using technology, you're taking your steps towards Industry 4.0 in order to become world class. Production and supply chain is equally important, because those are the 2 pillars on which your manufacturing excellence will rest on. So collaborative plan, how good is your planning, your forecasting of designs, replenishment, how is your supplier management, how are you doing your vendor management, because everything is completely dependent on each other. Customization strategy is the flexibility that you have to have in your operations. So how quickly can you change styles, how quickly can you move from one to another, how flexible is your complete system, how can you customize to different customers. So this electronic commerce strategies means basically how tech savvy you are, how innovative you are, how much of technology you are adapting into your operations to become world class, because technology aspects we cannot ignore at all. So time is now that the industries who will actually adapt latest technologies will actually grow further and further. The compensation system, that means how you're taking care of your people, product profitability, inventory levels, your WIP levels, your workers' productivity, employee retention rates, all of that comes into that. So all these factors are very, very important to take the journey towards WCM. Implementing the world-class manufacturing, and what are the tools to measure and record the progress. So I've listed 6 different tools which are very important, most important ones. The first one being the cost control. I think in COVID, people have really worked on this aspect, because I've seen factories where there were 10 people in a department and now there are only 3 or 4 and still managing the same amount of work. So cost control is, the COVID has actually pushed us to do that aspect, but irrespective of a crisis like COVID, this should be part and parcel of the system. So when it comes to the world-class manufacturing tools to do the cost controls, just-in-time practices, which have been the backbone of automobile industry. So similar practices, if not just in time, at least going towards minimum inventory should be practiced in our industry as well. And measurement indicators, that means how long are you holding your inventory, what is the absence of defects and reworks, cost of incoming material, how much does it stay on the rack, what is the inventory turnover ratio in your organization. So everything you need to measure. Coming to the second part, which is quality, what is the cost of quality in your organization? How are you foolproofing or mistake proofing or doing POCA-OK or root cause analysis? All of these techniques, how these are implemented in an organization to become a zero defect industry. And measuring the customer return rates, measuring the internal rejects, the repair, the cost of quality, the supplier quality performance. So every single aspect need to be measured continuously improved as well. External flexibility, that means how good or how strong or solid is your supply chain. So just-in-time logistics, of course, will lead to that. And quality at source, that means the vendor is checking the quality. So it doesn't mean, so the supplier has checked the fabric, then you check the fabric, then you check the cut panels, then you check the production as well. So every single layer you are building, another overhead onto it. So you're checking onto checking. So there are, so if we have a very strong, solid supply chain, and you check the quality at source, that means source means wherever if the fabric is manufactured at a mill, the mill is checking the quality. Similarly, so all these tools have to be, it's not just the internal improvement. You have to improve your suppliers as well. You have to work with them. The world is moving towards fewer suppliers, consolidating the supplier base. So in order to improve your supply chain, time for from customer order to delivery, that means how good is your lead time, delivery frequency, reliability to customer. All of these factors are very, very important measuring factors in order to check your external flexibility. Coming to the next one, which is internal flexibility. So internal flexibility means that whether do you still do the mass production in a very big bundle system, or have you moved to cellular layout or single unit flow production. So it's to create a pull in the system, not a push. So whether you have adapted the lean manufacturing practices, QCO is basically quick changeovers or rapid machine changeovers. How do you tackle your absenteeism in the line? Do you have floaters? So that there's no delay, there's no waiting time at all at any stage. So there is a smooth flow of production throughout your internal processes. The measurement indicator would be, what is the machine changeover time? What are the batch and lot sizes? How much is the inventory level through your entire value chain? Throughput time through the factory, machine utilization level. So all of these are measurement indicators to actually measure your internal flexibility. The whole idea of world-class manufacturing is actually to create a really smooth flow, so that when it is a smooth flow, that means from fabric to cutting to production to finishing, there is a complete smooth, there is no delays, there are minimum inventory levels. So the product lead time automatically reduces. You have to keep working on identifying your bottlenecks and resolving them on the spot, so that the flow doesn't get interrupted at any stage. And if there is any interruption, your management is empowered and skilled enough to handle that, and you resolve it immediately. Next point is capacity to change. That means how flexible is your human resource development? Do you have people who can do the multitasking? Do you have people who are multi-skilled? How good is your training department? Because training is something really, really essential for the world-class journey. Quality circles are formed to take care of all the quality issues on the spot. Then there are Kaizen groups in the organizations, because as I said, it's a continuous improvement progress. All the good performers or people who are really performing great are incentivized, so that their motivation there is really on a high, the morale is high, and the entire environment of the organization is such that everybody is excited to work in that environment. And in order to measure these things, you have to actually measure your absenteeism rate, your labor turnovers, your training budget. You have to keep your training budget in place so that your people are continuously improved. Not just the process, the people also have to be continuously improved and skilled further, so that they can take on the challenges of this new era. So employee development is very, very important, and that is what will lead to your continuous improvement. Innovation capacity is something very, very important. Now in our industry, I think the technology has really, really gone forward from just a single machine. Now, if you see right from your CAD, your 3D, digital printing, all of those aspects in the product development area, there are so many new tools that are there helping the designers. There is artificial intelligence to do better forecasts for you. So all these, even in production management, there are live production monitoring systems. There's every technology that is almost available. So how an organization is adapting to the new technologies, how well is your R&D department formed, how much do you do research and development? I mean, in this PPE kits, I think research and development has played a really, really vital role, because when it came to developing PPE kits, it was it sort of brought a revolution in the industry, wherein we became self-reliant so quickly, because we were so intensely working on all the aspects that are required, and government was so pro. So similarly, in the other aspects also in the industry, the technology is something very, very important, and adaptation to innovative technology is something which is key ingredient to go to the world-class manufacturing. Now, coming to the industry, there are some major operational challenges that our industry faces, and some of them are, for example, the three factors that we always need to keep in mind: the quality, delivery, and cost. So these are the three things which we always need to take care. So the first challenge that we have in the operation challenge in our industry, so I put together all the examples to our industry. So small order size, we have now, particularly after COVID, so many buyers have reduced the order sizes. So we have this constant challenge to handle small order size, because that requires much higher flexibility in the system, in the manufacturing practices. Frequent style changes, because that's what it will lead to. Weaker middle management. Now, in our industry, typically what happens is the middle management order, the floor in charge, the supervisors, the assistant production, the finishing in charge people. So these are the people who used to be really good operators, but they got promoted. So over the years, they became, the middle management order of the organization. However, their formal training was never done for that particular job role. So that becomes, something which needs to be addressed, I think, immediately by the industry. So, which is probably, holding us to raise the bar of the efficiency, because majorly our efficiency is dependent on that. There are many government initiatives for operators. So there are skilling schemes, and most of the numbers are coming from sewing machine operators or self-employed tailors, or the level 4. But what about level 5, level 6? So that level also needs really a big boost for training and development, so that the entire organization can grow further. Absenteeism and attrition needs to be addressed. When it comes to our industry, I think we face, ranging from south, probably 7-8%, to north, which can go up to 15%, as high as 15% as well. And attrition rate is also very, very high, because I think we need to strengthen our HR practices in order to control that. We've been always struggling with low efficiencies. If I compare in Indian scenario, the efficiencies would probably average up to 55-60%. But when it comes to China, and we want to obviously compete with them, their average efficiency is around 85%. So we need to really, really gear up. And 55% also, I'm saying, on the high side. Of course, different region in India has different efficiencies, but we need to really take care of these aspects to go towards world class. And this is the proposal that we normally do. So, which I feel these are 4 aspects which are very, very important to go towards world-class manufacturing. The first thing is you have to strengthen your middle management order. That is something very, very important. So strengthening your middle management order, then adapting lean journey towards world-class manufacturing. So lean practices have to be adapted. It's high time that we have to go lean. And then, because whichever industries or trades have actually achieved world-class manufacturing, lean has been the common ingredient if you actually study them. So this is something which our industry needs to immediately work towards. And number 3 is cost reductions by better methods and accurate standards. So of course this is also one part of the lean, but then this is something very, very important because industry lacks it. We need to go towards PMTS based standards, because if you see all the sophisticated industry, they don't actually use stopwatch or guesswork for establishing a work standard time. So you have to go PMTS way. Then you have to also have real-time production management system. Now, the whole idea is that you measure before you manage. How can you manage something which you don't measure? So in every single aspect, whether it's cutting, sewing, finishing, or efficiencies or anything, you have to first measure. In order to measure, you don't have to measure at the end of the day how much did I produce today. You have to measure as it happens. That means in real time. So there are many real-time production management systems today, and if you actually start measuring your operations in real time, you can actually provide the solution to the problem in real time, and therefore your system will be that much agile and flexible to deal with anything. Now, once you start measuring real time, and in the coming times, AI is there to predict the future trend for you, looking at the real time data. And then once you have the prediction or the trend with you, you will be much better informed to take a decision which will be, which proactive decision which can prevent the problems of future. So that is what we need to go towards. So because the weak management leads to all these things actually, and it creates of course the weakest link in the value chain. So it will lead to low efficiencies, weak skills, lack of ability of doing things, poor supply chain, improper planning, all of this. So an efficient middle management is like a perfect blend of coffee. So it needs all the human aspects, technical aspects, and operational aspects all together. So when I take a supervisor, he's very good technically, but his managerial aspects, that means his ability to manage the line, his ability to balance a running line, his ability to keep the motivation of everybody on high, his ability to communicate with his peers. All these aspects are equally important, because if you see 70% of a supervisor's job is communication. He is actually communicating and managing or taking decision. So it's not just the technical aspect which is needed now. Technical was needed when he was probably an operator. He was a very good operator, was promoted to supervisor. Then the other aspects become more important. But if he has not received any formal training in the other aspects, that means he will not be able to manage things properly. So we need to train this middle order urgently, so that we can start moving towards a better efficiencies. And you can create this perfect blend actually by creating, by skilling the knowledge of the middle management. He has all the knowledge, but how applying the knowledge is what we call skill. So we need to skill that knowledge, and that is what is very, very important to go towards WCM. So we need to do the training on all the three aspects. So whether it's human resource aspects, what is his role as a supervisor? How does he need to communicate? How should he motivate? How should he build the teamwork? And coming to the operation management, does he know his line balancing efficiency? How does he actually identify a bottleneck? How does he resolve a bottleneck? How does he handle a repair? All of these aspects are very, very important. What are his KPIs of the line, of the factory, everything? And I'm not talking only supervisor, the floor in charges, the finishing in charges, the store in charges, every single person who is in the middle order. So they need to be, in their own respective area, they need to be aware of all these aspects. And of course, the technical side is very, very important, which normally they are good at, but if they need a strengthening there, we need to strengthen that as well. The next step, as I said, the second one was going lean, which is another step in the journey towards world-class manufacturing. And that is, I think, something which is really, really must, because lean will only put you into the continuous journey of improvement. So if you see the foundation of WCM, world-class manufacturing, there are two things which are very, very important: the process and the people. Now, both of them have to achieve excellence. Not just if you improve process and don't do anything about people, you can never be world-class. Or if you just keep developing your people and your processes have loopholes into it, you'll have to marry the two. So we normally actually we work on both the aspects to create, companies which are level 4 or 5. So a lean journey will always lead to better efficiencies, better qualities, reducing lead times, and of course reducing the cost, because you are trying to eliminate wastages from every single process throughout the value chain. So that is what will actually reduce the cost. This is just an overview of a lean journey, that how a lean journey should be taken. So the first thing is you have to do a diagnostic. Where is the problem? Then you have to create or identify the gap analysis, identify the areas, what is your baseline, what are the goals, what are the KPIs. Then you have to structure a training program, what is basically HR skills, operationals and technical, then all of these things. Then you have to do the product engineering, then you have to implement. So this is for production. Again, similar things will be for cutting or finishing or other areas basically.
We are short of time. Would like to.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm done. It's just last 2 slides. That's all. Yeah. So the next is you have to move towards PMTS standards. PMTS is an international way of setting ethical standards. So you have to move towards that in order to be world class. And then the fourth ingredient, as I said, you have to adapt technology. You have to measure things in real time. So you have to do real time production management. Nowadays, there are mobile apps. Once you have the things running, everything can be in your, tips, so that you can take real-time decisions to do corrective actions, to take corrective actions for all the areas that needs concerns. And you have to keep measuring, and you have to keep doing the continuous improvements in order to be world-class. And that's all from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'd like to invite our next speaker, Mr. Chris, and he is the co-founder of Try3D. So,
sorry. Yeah. You can hear me now, right?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Right. It was great to hear directly from the likes of Dr. Shaktivel, Dr. Rupak, and Mr. Sanjeev. That was really a lot of wisdom that was imparted to us. And on this note, I would like to introduce my startup. We are Try3D. We are based out of Chennai. We are incubated with IIT Madras, and we have been working closely with NASSCOM 10,000 Startups Group as well. And we have primarily been working on the digital transformation for apparel and textile industry. We have been taking different problem statements and trying to provide solutions to help a lot of different businesses of different sizes. So I'll quickly take you through my presentation. I'll just share my screen. I don't know if you can confirm once you see it. Right. You can see my screen?
Yes, it's visible.
Right. So, I think first and foremost, I'd like to thank Business Charcha for this sponsorship opportunity and to address such a well-knowledged audience about this. And I'd like to talk about how we have how our journey has been through this pandemic, and how we have helped various businesses to continue their business even through the toughest of times by providing alternate solutions. So we are tackling two problems. If we I'm going to talk more on the retail side of things. So far, we've been seeing a lot on the the upstream, the manufacturing, production, and all. So right now, I'm going to talk more on the supply chain, on the retail side of things, right? So one of the common problems for a lot of retailers, whoever is willing to sell online, is to run a photo shoot, to be able to add the images and sell it online, right? The different challenges are range from cost to operations. They need to have access to model, they need to have access to photo studios, photographers, etc. And also, the time it takes for them to conduct a shoot and then complete the entire thing. It takes about 3 to 4 weeks for a business person to get his product online to sell it, right? And another problem that we have seen is the unorganized nature of how the fabric and textile industry works today, right from the manufacturer to the retailer to the customer. And what we felt that there was a pretty big opportunity over there to introduce some sort of digitization, so that the whole process of right from manufacturer to the consumer becomes more and more digital and more simpler. So what we have come up with is a small software, an application. It's in the form of web application, a mobile application, and a desktop software today, which takes the input of a flat garment and then it automatically converts into a model wearing it, or different other forms of representation as well, that people can use to create nice, beautiful, attractive images of their products and show it to their customers. Now, these images could be used either in an e-commerce platform like Amazon, Flipkart, or their own website, or these days people are even using it in WhatsApp, Signal, etc. to sell, to run the business on these platforms as well. So the difference is that you don't have to depend on a third person. The software is right in front of you, either on your phone or on your computer. You can convert the inventory right at the comfort of your home or warehouse without sending your stock to another city for photo shoots, etc. And the time it takes for somebody to learn the software is also quite short and quick. So the idea is simple. You just have to click a small picture of your garment or a fabric, and then you can visualize it in different styles of garments, ranging from Indian ethnic wear to Western wear, right? So you're saving huge amount of time and effort and huge amount of cost also. Now in the pandemic time, especially around from April to October, wherein there was a lot of lockdown going on, a lot of restrictions on movement, a lot of restrictions on travel. One thing that was really appreciated well is the e-commerce, but people were wondering how to get there, how to do their business. A lot of people didn't have access to selling on Flipkart's or Amazon's readily. One of the biggest challenges was catalog. So we kind of stepped into the game, and we reached out to a lot of people. I think we have onboarded more than 250 new sellers, either through their own websites or through Amazon or Flipkart, or even different other smaller e-commerce platforms, or even WhatsApp, right? So we enabled, or we kind of gave them this software to be able to showcase their garments much more attractively, and we helped them sell a lot of garments. Almost close to 1 lakh garments were uploaded from lockdown to today, and more than about 35,000 were in this peak time where there were lockdown restrictions and stuff. We have helped more than 250 small and micro businesses, a good chunk of which have also been led by women entrepreneurs, to give them this particular software tool so that they can sell their inventory and stock that was lying still otherwise, in various e-commerce channels. So that's been one of the biggest impact we were able to create through our startup to a lot of retailers who were otherwise didn't have any other option but to just wait till the lockdown to get over and then start selling. And we did not just cater to the smaller and micro enterprises, but we also have dealt with a lot of big, huge businesses in the past, and who are still our customers today. we work with a lot of big brands, like ranging from like Reliance, Donier, Sierrams in the fabrics and textile side of businesses. And we work with a lot of cooperative societies, government cooperative societies like Cooptex from Tamil Nadu, TSCO and APCO from the Andhra and Telangana states. We started talking to a few other like the West Bengal's Miswa Bangla, etc. And we also deal with a lot of mainstream retailers and e-commerce platform like Myntra, Flipkart, Tanaira, etc. Right? So we are trusted by a lot of big brands. So that's the quality at which we deliver, and at the same time we care and we cater to a lot of small and micro enterprises as well. So because that's what we believe is going to digitally transform India when a lot of small businesses start adopting such digital transformation technologies on their side. Way forward, we are actually building more and more features within our application so that anybody who kind of uses it for the first time will be able to digitize a garment in the first 5 minutes. That's convert a flat image of their garment into model images, and then they'll be able to generate a QR code for sharing that garment. Using that QR code, which can be shareable on through all the different social media and websites and everything, they'll be able to kind of sell their garment. Like commerce can happen over that QR code. Like I can just quickly scan the code, and if I like the product, I can just place an order then and there, so that the vendor or the seller can benefit directly, without having the complex infrastructure of a website or an e-commerce platform, etc. They can directly start selling from their mobile phone. So they can create their virtual store in 10 minutes and start selling in 15 minutes. So that's the whole idea with which we would want to empower all the small, micro and medium-sized retailers across the country. They need not have a website. They need not have prior experience in selling online. All they need to do is sign up for the app, and they'll be able to start selling or doing the commerce through WhatsApp, social media, Signal, etc. All these platforms. So the bigger picture is today our solution is being very well adapted by a lot of retailers. We want to move one step behind in the whole ecosystem. We want to go closer to the manufacturing as well, so that these QR codes are generated at the manufacturer level itself, and the retailers are just able to utilize these QR codes directly and visualize it for their customers. And once that is happening, we would want to get designers also into this picture, who can constantly create this digital content in terms of digital designs, digital styles, garments, etc. Now once we have the retailers, manufacturers and designers in place, the next organic step will be to onboard even tailors or the garment manufacturers themselves, so that for a customer looking at this whole picture, they have a digital version of the fabric or the textile or the fabric, and they have a designer who can design that particular garment for them in a specific way, and they're able to visualize it on themselves on the application, and they can then place an order with any tailor as well in the same platform. So we are looking to create this whole ecosystem for this entire textile and fabric industry, including designers and manufacturers or tailors into this picture, and provide for end consumer a better ecosystem to be able to order what they want to what they want in terms of garment. So this is our team. We are along with me, I have Nitish, who's my co-founder. He's an IIT Bombay alumni, and I have studied in IIT Madras, and we have some mentoring from Venkat Vishwanathan, who's also who comes from an analytics background. He has been helping or shaping us in terms of how to take this the product to the market. And we wish to build more and more scalable AI-powered solution for this apparel ecosystem. That's all from my side. I have a small trivia just to engage with all of you, just to give you a small interesting game. Over here I have put 5 images in front of you. Only one of them is actually a real photo shoot image. Other 4 are actually rendered on our software, on our technology. So if you can identify which one, it will be great. From left to right,
this is interesting.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can probably type in your answers on the chat or something. I'm
And
open
this
to
is
questions.
pretty difficult actually.
Yeah, that's the idea, right? So, I mean, the idea was that, initially our customers were very skeptical in terms of how a computer generated image would look like. It won't really carry the realism of a real photograph. But, we wanted to convince people that no, our images are actually as good as a real image. So that's why we kind of run these contests once in a while on our Instagram and Facebook page as well, to convince all our customers and potential customers that they are in safe hands with respect to the quality of images.
So we got few responses. Let's see.
Sure. So let me just open that. Right, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, the answer was probably actually 2. The second from the left was, I think only Swati got it right. Everyone else was guessing something else. Yeah, the red one, correct. That was the one. I think we have a lot of designers and students over here, so I think they'll have that keen eye for that. But on the first look, I think it's pretty tough to, figure that out. I'm open to questions. I saw.
Yeah. So we have Miss Neetu Malhotra, and she is the HOD of Satyam Fashion Institute, and she wants to interact with you, sir.
Sure.
Yeah, ma'am, over to you.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you so much. We would like to thank, on behalf of Satyam Fashion Institute, to the entire Business Charcha team for your talks, and the guest speakers are really amazing and very interesting session by the team members. And these kind of events will be very beneficial to the students fraternity. In fact, over 80 students have joined this session, and thank you so much to the speakers, and even Dr. Vanna Jaglan, we both have joined here at the session. I would like to say her to say few words in this session regarding the Apparel Promotion Council and about your event.
Sure. Just.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. So it has been really nice to hear all the sessions, and it is really going great. Especially the current session, I think it is much of interest to the students because we see the new technology being talked about, and it's really something which is plus than what is happening in all the 3D softwares currently. So congratulations to team Try 3D, and so I think it's really something. So do you really think it is going to help student portfolios as well, apart from just the e-commerce and other things? I mean, the people who are having the brainstorming being done for making the designs?
It does, right? So actually students and designers were definitely one sort of community we wanted to target as well, because it's very easy to create new styles and visualize their designs, their own designs as well. Before they even get to the fabric stage or the manufacturing stage of it. So as long as they just design their own something in Photoshop or Illustrator or whatever, right, they'll be able to visualize it to either to their fellow students, fellow friends, or professors, or even brands to whom they want to pitch. So this will definitely be helpful in all these scenarios. And the good thing about the one more good thing about this thing is that it need not really be like a 3D CAD that a lot of traditional such design softwares have been giving. It'll be more a realistic output that gives a very natural look of how the end garment is going to be. So definitely we are targeting designers and fashion students over here as well.
Also, we have a lot to talk about to you.
So
we'll contact you probably. Business Charcha has been a great platform for bringing out this kind of technology. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Krishna. And I would like to thank all our speakers, Dr. Rupak Vashisht, Dr. A. Saktiwal, Krishna, Ms. Sunaina. Thank you so much for joining in. Now we have Mr. Vikram Singh. He is Senior Executive Training from Khadi and Village Industries Commission. He would like to throw some light on the topic, on the apparel industry, how Khadi is supporting. Sir.
Okay, thank you. खादी मीन्स, खादी का नाम जहन में आते ही गांधी जी का नाम याद आ जाता। खादी का जो परिभाषा है, डेफिनेशन है, खादी का अर्थ है कपास, रेशम या ऊन से बने हुए या इससे दो या दो से अधिक के मिश्रण से तैयार वस्त्र भारत में निर्मित खादी कहलाता। खादी को कई बार गांधी जी ने कहा था कि खादी वस्त्र नहीं विचार है। खादी हैंड वीविंग, हैंड स्पिनिंग। तो KVIC खादी ग्राम उद्योग आयोग दो तरह से खादी और ग्राम उद्योग दोनों दो तरह से सपोर्ट करता है। खादी ग्राम उद्योग की परिभाषा गांव में कोई भी ऐसा उद्योग जो विद्युत से चालित हो या बिना विद्युत के उपयोग में कोई भी वस्तु या सेवा प्रदान करता हो, जिसमें स्थायी पूंजी निवेश प्रति कर्मी या कारीगर 1 लाख रुपए से अधिक ना हो और पहाड़ी क्षेत्र में 1.5 लाख से अधिक ना हो, केंद्र सरकार द्वारा समय समय पर राजपत्र में अधिसूचना के निर्दिष्ट ऐसा कोई राशि उपयोग में आती हो, उसे ग्राम उद्योग कहते हैं। अब ये शहर में, अर्बन में और रूरल में दोनों जगह लग सकता है। केवल डेफिनेशन ग्राम उद्योग की है। तो खादी, वैसे तो खादी कपड़ा माना जाता है, लेकिन हम खादी ग्राम उद्योग आयोग खादी को प्रमोट करता आ रहा है। ग्राम उद्योग के साथ साथ खादी को बहुत अधिक मात्रा में प्रमोट करता है। पूरे भारत में फैला हुआ है। इसका जो कार्यस्थल है पूरे भारत में, अंडमान निकोबार से लेकर के कश्मीर से कन्याकुमारी से त्रिवेंद्रम तक पूरे भारतवर्ष में इसका कार्य चल रहा है। और खादी ग्राम उद्योग आयोग खादी को प्रमोट करता है। खादी पर बनाने के लिए जैसे आपका कताई है, कताई और बुनाई दोनों पर खादी ग्राम उद्योग फाइनेंस सुविधा भी उपलब्ध कराता है, मार्केटिंग भी उपलब्ध कराता है। और लगभग पूरे देश में हमारे खादी के लगभग 7,500 आउटलेट अभी डायरेक्ट और इनडायरेक्ट काम करते हैं। इसके विभिन्न ट्रेनिंग सेंटर भी हैं पूरे इंडिया में, पूरे भारत में लगभग 41 ट्रेनिंग सेंटर है, जिसमें से 41 ट्रेनिंग सेंटर में डायरेक्ट ट्रेनिंग सेंटर हैं, जिसमें से 20 ट्रेनिंग सेंटरों में खादी का प्रशिक्षण भी दिया जाता है। कुछ में ग्राम उद्योग का दिया जाता है, लेकिन खादी का प्रशिक्षण शुरुआत से देते आ रहे हैं। कैसे खादी को कताई की जाती है, कितना उसको यार्न को कितना बारीक उसको उस काउंट में बोलते हैं, जैसे कितने काउंट का धागा है, कितने काउंट का धागा है, काउंट का धागा का हिसाब लगाया जाता है। पहले गांव में किसान चरखा होता था, किसान चरखा के बाद 2 स्पिंडल चरखा आया, फिर 6 स्पिंडल आया, अभी 32 स्पिंडल तक का चरखा खादी ग्राम उद्योग ने डायरेक्ट और इनडायरेक्ट डेवलप किया है, जो हाथ से चलता है, बिजली चलता है, सोलर से भी चलता है। तो इस पर खादी का यार्न बनाया जाता है। खादी का यार्न बनाने के बाद खादी को विभिन्न बुनकरों तक पहुंचाया जाता है। यार्न बनने के बाद या उसको बुनाई होती है। बुनाई के बाद उसमें रेशम, सूती, आपका ऊनी या पोली, ये सब अलग अलग तरह के कपड़े बनाए जाते हैं। उसके बाद फिनिशिंग होती है। फिनिशिंग के बाद हमारे जो आउटलेट है, खादी भंडार है, उन पर खादी बेची जाती है। खादी का जो मार्केटिंग है, विपणन है, बड़ी मात्रा में अभी जब से कई बार आपको शायद सुना होगा, मोदी ने भी कहा था चाहे खादी का हर घर में एक रुमाल, हैंडकरचीफ भी खरीदो जरूर। तो उससे खादी की बिक्री में काफी बढ़ावा है, खादी की बिक्री को बढ़ावा मिला है। और आम पब्लिक के लिए हम इसमें लोन की सुविधा उपलब्ध कराते हैं। लोन की सुविधा के बाद वो अपना यदि उद्योग लगाता है तो हम खादी, केवल खादी कपड़ा, खादी ग्राम उद्योग के साथ साथ खादी कपड़ा भी हमारे आउटलेट पर बिक्री के लिए तैयार होता है। उसको खादी इंडिया मार्क का लेना आवश्यक है। खादी इंडिया मार्क का हमारी जो स्कीम है PMEGP, कल जिसके बारे में हम कल बताऊंगा, PMEGP स्कीम बहुत ही एक नेशनल लेवल की बहुत ही अच्छी स्कीम है, जो कि जो कि 2008 में ग्रामीण रोजगार सृजन कार्यक्रम और प्रधानमंत्री रोजगार सृजन को विलय करके तैयार किया गया था, वो आज पूरे देश में अर्बन और ग्रामीण, रूरल और अर्बन क्षेत्र में ये चलाई जा रही है। इसके तहत हम यानी खादी ग्रामोद्योग आयोग, जिसको खादी इंडिया का मार्का देता है, खादी इंडिया के बगैर मार्के के बगैर हम प्रमोट नहीं कर सकते, खादी इंडिया का मार्का देता है। वो लोन पीएमईजीपी में जाने के बाद ही देता है, उसका रास्ता ही एक है पीएमईजीपी। तो पीएमईजीपी में होकर के जाने के बाद खादी इंडिया का मार्का मिलता है। मार्का मिलने के बाद खादी ग्रामोद्योग आयोग जितने भी गवर्नमेंट डिपार्टमेंट है उनको भी सप्लाई करता है। जो एनजीसी है, रेलवे है, उसको खादी ग्रामोद्योग सप्लाई कराता है। जो हमारी यूनिट है जो कि पीएमईजीपी से लगी हुई है, उनको खादी इंडिया देने के बाद वो ओपन हो जाता है कि उस पर टैक्स की भी छूट है, टैक्स भी नहीं है। और वो लोगों को खादी जो है एक वस्त्र ऐसा है जो गर्मी में ठंडा और सर्दी में गर्म का रूप करता है। ये वस्त्र इसलिए गांधी जी ने कहा था खादी वस्त्र नहीं विचार है। विचार इसलिए रखा गया था ताकि ये कपड़ा जो खादी कपड़ा है ये वातानुकूलित है। ठीक है, दूसरे कपड़े जो गर्मी में गर्म लगते हैं, ठंडी में ठंडा लगते हैं, लेकिन खादी वातानुकूलित है जो सर्दी में गर्म और गर्मी में सर्द लगता है। खादी जो पहनता है वो खादी पहनेगा, शरीर को खादी पहना हुआ और मील का कपड़ा पहने हुए में अलग होता है। खादी के लिए खादी ग्रामोद्योग प्रमोट करता है। बहुत सारी स्कीम और भी निकाली हुई है, स्फूर्ति है, कई स्कीम खादी ग्रामोद्योग ने निकाली है। जो हमारी केवीआईसी ऑनलाइन या पीएमईजी पोर्टल केवीआईसी ऑनलाइन पर सभी की सभी योजनाएं हमारी उपलब्ध हो जाती है। ऑनलाइन आप जानकारी ले सकते हैं। तो हमारे खादी ग्रामोद्योग आयोग के हेड ऑफिस प्रधान कार्यालय मुंबई में है और उसमें 6 जोन में इसको बांटा गया है और अलग अलग स्टेट में हर राज्य में इसका ऑफिस भी है। कई राज्यों में 2 या 2 से अधिक भी ऑफिस है। जो बड़ा राज्य है उसमें 2 या 2 से अधिक ऑफिस है। मिनिमम एक राज्य में एक ऑफिस तो है ही है जो खादी को प्रमोट करता है, उसकी जानकारी देता है। और हमारी खादी की लगभग जो है 5,000 से अधिक संस्थाएं देश में काम कर रही है। जो पंजीकृत संस्थाएं हैं 5,000 से अधिक, और इसका नेटवर्क पूरे इंडिया में, भारत में फैला हुआ है, जो समय समय पर चेंज होता रहता है। तो मैं इसके लिए आपको बताना चाहता हूं कि खादी हमारा जो भी आउटलेट है, सभी आउटलेट पर खादी बिकती है। कपड़ा मीन्स खादी छोड़ करके कोई भी कपड़ा हम प्रमोट नहीं करते हैं। केवल खादी ग्रामोद्योग खादी के आउटलेट पर खादी बेचता है। खादी मीन्स आपको बताया भी दिया गया है। तो खादी की परिभाषा के अंदर, खादी की डेफिनेशन के अंदर जो भी कपड़ा आता है वो खादी हमारे आउटलेट पर उसको प्रमोट करते हैं, लोन दिलवाते हैं, मार्केटिंग कराते हैं बेचने में। और उसको गवर्नमेंट जो एजेंसी हैं जिनकी डिमांड होती है एज पर डिमांड, रेलवे में या हमारे कई डिपार्टमेंट में ऐसे आपके मिलिट्री जो पैरामिलिट्री फोर्स हैं, मिलिट्री फोर्स हैं, उनको वर्दी सप्लाई करनी, स्कूल को वर्दी सप्लाई करनी, ये सब खादी की वर्दी जो भी डिपार्टमेंट चाहते हैं उनको सप्लाई केवीआईसी जो हमारी संस्थाएं हैं या हमारे यूनिट जो खादी ग्रामोद्योग के तहत, खादी इंडिया के तहत लगी हुई है, उनसे ही ये सप्लाई होती है। बाहर से आउट से सप्लाई नहीं होती। तो वैसे तो खादी या शीतल कुछ और पूछना है, किसी को क्वेश्चन पूछना है बीच में?
अगर पार्टिसिपेंट्स को कोई भी क्वेरीज है, अगर वो सवाल पूछना चाहते हैं खादी से रिगार्डिंग, तो काइंडली आप चैट बॉक्स में लिख दीजिए और यू कैन रेज योर हैंड, आई विल अनम्यूट यू। और पीएमईजीपी स्कीम के बारे में इन डिटेल वी आर गोइंग टू डिस्कस इन टुमारोज कॉन्फ्रेंस।
Yeah.
So, as we are ending with today's event, I would like to thank you all for joining the conference. Your presence today shows strong commitment to work towards apparel and textile industry. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the panelists and speakers for sharing their expertise with us. A big thank you to Dr. A. Saktival, Dr. Rupak Vishisht for joining in, and Dr. Sanjeev Chawla. I may express my sincere thanks to Vikram Singh from Khadi and Village Industries Commission, Sunaina Khanna, Krishna Sumant Alwala from Tri3D. Thank you so much all for joining in and sharing your knowledge with the participants, and looking forward to have you all for tomorrow's event, 11 to 1. I am sharing in the group the tomorrow's event schedule, what we are going to discuss tomorrow. Kindly let me know, and the certification distribution from Khadi and all the benefits would be given from the next week onwards.